What we sincerely hope from creating this process is that the dramatic loss of traditional meadows can be reversed. We were in the old CSS scheme, and in those days hay strewing was the thing. We tried it and were extremely disappointed with the results, so decided to look at this as any other farming operation and how we might improve the collection of seed, because after all it was the seed that we were looking for. If you think about baling, then you're mowing, you're knocking seed out, you're turning, you're knocking seed out, you're rowing up and knocking seed out, and here's a product you're being asked to use as a seed source, so it just didn't make any sense at all. So we thought that if we mowed it very carefully, with no conditioner in the system at all, we didn't turn it and we picked the rows up immediately, it made sense and it was logical that that product would be full of seed. We blew it into dung spreaders and we took that resulting material to our receptor site, which had previously been agreed with stewardship, spread it on just to see what would happen, and it was quite staggering. The results were enormous. We had a really good movement of species from our donor site. Points to consider if you're going to make a new meadow: obviously a weed-free donor site, a weed-free receptor site, walk the field, make sure there are no weeds present. Access is a point to consider. It needs to be good for both sites, the receptor and the donor. The sites need to be located within a 5-mile radius of the donor site. You will need access to large machinery. It's large-scale farm equipment. You must have contractors that can supply you with that kit. It's vital that you identify a good donor meadow, and ideally this will be an ancient site, not a creation. It will be species rich, and to establish a good list of species, I think it would always recommend having a survey so that you know exactly what you're hoping to take from one field to another. Receptor site identification: you would obviously want to look at the fertility of the site. Without a doubt, one of the most important effective factors is low fertility. You would want to identify species in the same way that you did in your donor site, because if there's something interesting and useful there, it would be nice to work around it and keep it. If there are weeds there, you've got to identify those, and they've got to be got rid of before you can start any form of enhancement. As far as the preparation of the receptor site and the actual process of harvesting from the donor site is concerned, it can all be done on the same day, and that day could even be a day in the rain. In fact, it's one of the advantages of the system that you're more likely to get a contractor to be able to come to you when he's been rained off on other projects. You can prepare your seed bed or your field to be enhanced on the same day, power harrow, and then transport the harvested material. We would power harrow the existing grass field to open up the sward to set back the existing grass. Harvesting the seed from the donor meadow has to be in line with stewardship, and we take stewardship recommendation that you don't harvest before the 15th of July. So we're into traditional timing. After the 15th of July, you would walk your field, try and establish when you have maximum ripe seed, looking for the dry brown seeds, and continue to talk to your contractor, keep him on side, because you need to know that he's going to be available at the optimum time. That's not always easy with a contractor, and then you just got to go for it. It may be the first rainy day after the middle of July, but you'll get a good sample. It may be random, and some will be viable, some won't, but with this whole crop method you should have enough viable seed for a very good enhancement. The actual process starts with the mowing, and we mow with a mower conditioner at the moment. We started mowing with purely a disc mower, but we actually wanted to build a degree of inefficiency into the process so that we didn't deplete our donor site. The mower is very big. We want economy of scale. We're doing this on a field scale. It's a large process intended for other farmers, and we will mow, can be in the wet. It's a completely weatherproof process, and the whole idea is as much mown as quickly as possible, and then we simply row it up, again minimal process, disturb the material as little as possible. We're aiming not to knock seed out. Once it's rowed up, the forage harvester comes along, picks the whole lot up and blows it into enormous Westmac side delivery dung spreaders and transport the material on to the receptor site. From donor site to receptor site is crucial timing. We must not allow the material to heat up, so don't overstretch the distance. We have found through constant practice 5 miles appears to be the limit. So important points to summarise for the receptor site. Make sure there's nothing there that you want to keep with your survey. It must be weed free. It must have low fertility and good access, and be ready prepared to actually take your material. The process is fast. We can mow, row and pick up and spread 7 acres of material, which will enhance 20 odd acres of receptor site in an afternoon easily. So 20 odd acres can be sown in an afternoon in the rain. Aftercare for us, because we're moving the entire crop and we would expect to receive the entire crop, what we end up with in year 1 is actually a replica meadow. We would go straight into a haymaking situation. We have things like yellow rattle that would be lost if it were grazed or topped and removed. We've developed the process and we're using it on the estate. We're very happy to try and train other people and get the process absorbed into general practice. The Weald is a very specific and special landscape, and so our process is quite relevant here and quite poignant here, but it is a process that could be used anywhere in the country so that we can reverse the terrible trend of lost species-rich meadows. It's difficult to determine the success of the process, but I think a visual inspection is probably as good as anything else. If you've succeeded in moving species from your donor site to your receptor site, such as you can see here, within a year, then I think it's encouraging and probably you'll do it again.